The Provo River flows 71 miles across northeastern Utah, from its headwaters in the Uinta Mountains to Utah Lake on the west side of the Wasatch Mountains. The Provo River flow has been dammed twice for storage and hydroelectric generation. Much of the river has also been historically straightened and contained in channels to allow for more agricultural and developmental use of the surrounding land. The Provo is a river of multiple uses, ranging from recreational to irrigation to municipal and industrial, as well as providing valuable ecosystem services to the wildlife in the area. Although the Provo does not travel a long distance, it provides generous amounts of water to users throughout many valleys in Utah. Beginning in Heber Valley, the Provo provides ample irrigation waters to the farmers and ranchers in the area, as well as municipal water to the Heber City. Jordanelle, the newer of the two reservoirs, finished construction in 1993, is also located upstream from Heber City. Jordanelle has a capacity of 320,000 acre-feet. Below Heber City is Deer Creek Reservoir, which finished construction in 1941 and is a 152,000 acre-feet reservoir and hydroelectric dam. Boating, fishing, swimming, and camping all take place on both reservoirs, with numerous state parks between the two reservoirs. Below Deer Creek Reservoir, the Provo River enters Provo Canyon, which is an incredibly active area for the river. This stretch of river provides tubing and kayaking, world-class fly fishing and camping, as well as more state and city parks for visitors. Additionally, there are multiple diversions throughout the canyon for water users. Both irrigators and municipal water is withdrawn from the river through the canyon and sent to Salt Lake and Utah valleys. Once out of the canyon, the Provo River flows through the town of Provo for its remaining stretch and empties into Utah Lake. The Provo is incredibly vital to the lives of many in semi-arid Utah. The combined reservoir systems and river are water sources for over 1 million people living along the Wasatch Front of Utah. Additionally, tens of thousands of acre-feet are provided to irrigators throughout Heber and Utah valleys. The importance of the water that flows down the Provo does not downplay the numerous threats that plague this river as well. First, mine drainage from abandoned mines has historically resulted in high levels of heavy metals in the river that can cause serious ecosystem and human health issues. Thankfully, the majority of mine drainage has been mitigated through efforts including a treatment facility built on the edge of Jordanelle Reservoir, specifically to treat the Ontario Drain Tunnel. Some older mines do result in heavy metal discharge, but water quality is monitored and tested by many entities for this. Next, the construction of Jordanelle and the existence of two large reservoirs on such a short stretch of river has resulted in a loss of sediment flow downstream. This affects ecosystems along the Provo, primarily downstream from Jordanelle, but has effects as far downstream as the delta with Utah Lake. Loss of sediment results in loss of habitat and biodiversity and negatively affects macroinvertebrate spawning as well as fish spawning and food chains. It can also negatively affect the hydrogeomorphology of the river by causing stream beds to erode more quickly than new sediment is added. Finally, nutrient pollution is a large concern for the Provo River and other tributaries of Utah Lake. Excess nutrients from runoff have caused deadly algal blooms in Utah Lake, and they will only get worse in the future without any changes made to the tributaries and systems of fertilizing we utilize. Fortunately, many water users and stakeholders are happy to implement new changes to restore some function and form to the Provo River. In 2008, the Provo River Restoration Project concluded. This project was aimed at restoring the natural meander of the river between Jordanelle and Deer Creek reservoirs and was a large success. The project pushed back levees to allow floodplains to form, constructed side channels for fish and other wildlife habitat, and planted streamside vegetation to improve riparian health. Additionally, river otters were reintroduced to the Provo River in 2010, and while their numbers have remained small, they have been present since reintroduction, playing an important role in ecosystem health and acting as an indicator species for human research. The lower Provo is home to trout and a healthy riparian ecosystem through Provo Canyon. In the winter, minimum flows are met from dam discharge to keep the river ecosystem healthy. After flowing through the town of Provo, the Provo River empties into Utah Lake at the freshly restored delta, which has the benefit of ecosystem services associated with a healthy delta, such as natural water filtration, flood control, and biodiversity. Home to the threatened June sucker, Utah Lake and the delta shared with the Provo River play an important role not just in the management of water as a resource, but also as an ecosystem to delicate aquatic species. Utah Lake was formed when the historic Lake Bonneville dried out nearly 12,000 years ago. At the same time, the Great Lake and Sevier Lake also formed. Sevier Lake has since dried out and no longer exists, also due to overpumping for irrigation. The Great Lake still remains, and due to its lower elevation and endorheic nature, has a much higher salt concentration than Utah Lake. Lake Bonneville would have been the fourth largest freshwater lake in the world if it still existed today. Over the course of Lake Bonneville's life, sediments built up on the floor of the lake and created a semi-flat area, resulting in a shallow Lake Utah and the wide flat areas of Utah and Salt Lake County today. Utah Lake flows into the Jordan River out of the north side of the lake. From here, water is diverted for irrigation purposes. The lake level is controlled through the pump house and a diversion dam. Utah Lake is also used for recreational activities.
Independence Day, officials are warning Utah Lake visitors about potentially harmful toxins in the water.
News specialist Shelby Lofton tells us where the algal blooms have been spotted and the risks they pose to everyone at the lake.
No other place to be.
American Fork Beach was the perfect place to celebrate Independence Day for the Athertons.
Unfortunately, due to the shallow levels of Utah Lake and an excess amount of nutrient runoff that accumulates in the lake, combined with high temperatures, Utah Lake sees a large amount of algal growth. An increasing amount of that is blue-green or cyanobacteria algae. State TMDLs are being exceeded for phosphorus and total dissolved solids in Utah Lake. Other factors are also contributing to the algae problem in the lake. Carp, an invasive species, have exploded in population, and they are more likely to stir up sediment, increasing turbidity and predating on other native species such as the June sucker. The restoration of the Provo River Delta plays a large role for multiple uses. First, it creates a necessary habitat for the threatened June sucker. June suckers are a native fish that were recently delisted from endangered due to restoration efforts throughout Utah Lake. The June sucker requires the habitat-dense ecosystem of the delta for their young to find food and shelter before they are large enough to live in Utah Lake. However, the habitat created also provides home to other fish species as well as birds and insects that all work together to create a healthy ecosystem. Second, the restored delta will provide an outdoor recreation space to all citizens who want to enjoy walks or bike rides on the trails or non-motorized boating in the delta. Fishing and bird watching are also excellent options for recreation in the restored delta. Finally, the restored delta provides beneficial ecosystem services to Utah Lake and stakeholders that want to utilize that water. The delta will allow the Provo River water to slow down before it reaches Utah Lake. Caught in the meanders and wide dispersal of channels, sediments and nutrient pollution will settle out in the delta where it will be utilized by plants necessary for a healthy delta ecosystem. The plants and meandering nature of a delta will also help to slow the peak runoff from floods. The Delta Restoration Project was a large cooperative effort between many government agencies and private entities. The project covers 260 acres and has taken over 4 years of work to complete, with some recreational facilities still under construction. Construction began in 2020 with the excavation of nearly 5 miles of channels and over 23 acres of ponds that would become the delta. Soil lifts with riparian vegetation planted in them were utilized to protect stream banks. Over 1,300 lifts and 700 feet of coconut mesh were installed. Additionally, a wide floodplain was lowered to allow for flooding in the spring. Revegetation efforts took place after construction had ended each fall. The Provo River accounts for nearly 1/3 of the influent into Utah Lake and therefore plays a large role in the health of the lake. Ensuring that the water flowing from Provo into the lake is clean and does not deposit excess nutrients or sediments into the already damaged lake system is vital. The Provo River Delta Restoration Project is an excellent example of a project that can help to improve the overall water quality in Utah Lake while providing important habitat for native species of fish and birds and still providing an outdoor recreation area for citizens. Water managers and other stakeholders around Utah Lake should look at this project and the benefits it provides to Utah Lake and look towards future restoration projects at other deltas.